everyone. This is our Demystifying Position Descriptions and Tailoring Your Job Application Materials workshop today. We're excited that you could join us. We are going to be talking about kind of how to make your application stand out and really fit the things that that particular employer is looking for. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I do want to do a few housekeeping details. As I mentioned, we are recording the session. We will be posting it on our YouTube channel. Rockefeller College has a YouTube channel, and we've got a virtual career workshops playlist there that you can go see many of our recorded workshops there. So this will be added to that. Give us a week or so. It takes a little while to get the video up there, but we'll try to get that up by the beginning of October. But we will share the link in the career newsletter next week so people can watch it sooner if they want to. So if you have friends who missed it, or if you need to check out early to get to class, you'll be able to catch it again as well. I do also want to, before I share my slides, I want to introduce everyone. My name is Joan Marceau. I'm the undergraduate internship and career coordinator with Rockefeller College. And in the transition in our office right now, I'm also working with both graduate and undergraduate students. So I'm excited to see both graduate and undergraduate students here with us today. And I've got our two graduate assistants here. So I'm going to go ahead and let them each introduce themselves, maybe tell us, what program you're in, and a little bit about yourself and your work with the career office. Go ahead, Emily.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm an MPA student, first year, and I'm the graduate assistant on the downtown campus. So if you ever wanted to come in person and that's more convenient for you, I'm the person you come to. My office is in Milne 105, so it's the first floor and all the way down to at the end of the hallway. And I have office hours. I have some sort of appointment hour every day of the week. So if you ever need anything, just email me and we'll find a way to meet.
Excellent. Thank you. And Taylor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor. I am in my first semester at the MIA program here. I went here as an undergrad also. I am Emily's counterpart on the Uptown campus, so that's particularly convenient for a lot of undergrads. In the humanities basement, if anyone wants to come to the contact office and see me. I also have appointments and office hours Monday through Thursday.
Excellent. Excellent. So welcome. We're glad that you're here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to dive right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Emily and Taylor will give me a thumbs up that we're good to go. Excellent. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about kind of demystifying those position descriptions. When you look at a position description, sometimes it's a lot of words and you're like, what really matters in there? How can I make my application stand out? So we did on the introductions already. I wanted to do it when you could see our faces bigger. But the email address, you can always reach us at rockefeller.careers@albany.edu, and this phone number. And then you can schedule appointments with any of the three of us on Handshake or stop by our office hours. And we are all three doing both in-person and Zoom appointments and office hours. So I want to get us started by kind of finding out why you're here today. So if you could take a second, type it into the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and actually unmute yourself and talk, you can. But why did you join today's workshop? What questions do you have and what would you like to get out of it? Rishi, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. The main reason why I came to this workshop today is that I'm trying to make a career transition towards cybersecurity.
Okay.
But the issue that I have is that when I read the job descriptions, there's so many technical skills that they want, and then they want lots and lots of work experience. And I'm like, I don't really know any of these tools, what they're talking about. And I don't know where I'm supposed to get all the work experience that these employers want.
Okay. That's a great question. So we will definitely address that today. Other questions? And Emily, Taylor, if you want to read off if things are coming in the chat, go ahead and read those off to us too.
We have one person that said they joined because they want to have a guide into the internship/job world.
Excellent. Hopefully this will give you that. That's wonderful. Any other things?
We have another person that said that they would like to develop themselves professionally and they feel that this workshop will assist them.
Excellent. Yes, I think it will. I think it will. All right. Well, let's move on then. And let's talk a little bit about to land that job interview, what are some things that you think would be most important as you are, applying to a job? What things would you identify that are most important to land that job interview? And again, you can unmute yourself or go ahead and type it into the chat. Just type in really quick, whatever you think. Okay, Enrica would like to know about U.S. citizen permission. We can talk a little bit about that as well. I'm not the expert on that, but I can definitely point you in the right direction at the end of the workshop. But what things do you think are most important as you're putting those application materials together?
I think that trying to have the experiences that you're looking for, or like transferable like experiences that you've had before, to match what you're looking for.
Yes, so matching your experiences to what they're looking for, focusing on those transferable skills, that's great. Taylor, Emily, what's coming in the chat?
We've got some students saying that they have to fulfill all aspects of the application process, including a good cover letter, also experience, connections, good references, having a good resume that highlights your qualifications and experience.
Excellent, excellent. So lots of great ideas. Let me just share a few more. Doing some research on the organization, networking with people in your warm market. So there might be people who have connections there. So that could be a helpful thing to help you. Ensuring that your resume and cover letter are tailored to the position. A couple of you mentioned that. Having an updated LinkedIn or Handshake profile can be very helpful. Attending employer information sessions, especially if it's an employer that's recruiting on campus, that can be really helpful to get the inside scoop on what they're looking for. Meet those recruiters. Career fairs is another thing. Scheduling informational interviews with current staff or alumni. So if there's alumni from that organization that you might be able to connect with and find out more about what they're looking for or what the culture is like at the organization. All of those things and the things that you were talking about really can help you land that job interview. But the first and most important thing that you need to do is to read the position description. And I know it sounds really simple, but it really is the first step. Everything that you do after that is going to depend upon reading that position description. So, and it might be, so let's talk about what kind of information do we think is found in the position description. Again, raise your hand or unmute or type in the chat. What types of things do you think that you would find in a position description that could be helpful to you?
Someone in the chat said degree requirements.
Yep, that's great. Very helpful, because if you don't meet, that's often kind of a baseline. If you don't meet the degree requirements, if they're looking for someone with a master's degree and you are a senior, you probably aren't going to have a chance. So that might be move on and find another position that you're a better fit for. What other things are coming in?
We're also seeing salary, desired qualifications, required qualifications, expected job duties, ideal skills and GPAs, hours and expected availability.
Excellent, excellent. So lots of great things that you can really get in that position description. And I think sometimes we skim through it quickly and don't spend as much time looking at it as we really should. So let's talk about some of the things you identified and some other things that you really want to look for in the position description. One of the first is the mission of the organization. And I know that's a part I often skip right over. Like I know the organization, but really they give you a paragraph in most job descriptions that kind of tells you what is their organization culture like? What is their goal of their organization? What is their mission? And that could be helpful to see if it's a good fit for you. You know, do you agree with their mission? Is that something you're passionate about also? That can help determine if, one, you should even apply. Is this a good fit for me? Should I even apply? But also then as you're crafting your materials, then you can connect your passion to their mission as well. So that's an important thing to look for. The next is kind of the obvious, the roles and responsibilities of the position, like what tasks are they going to be asking you to do? What's are the job duties? What are the responsibilities? All of those things are usually included in almost every position description. We'll have some of that. The qualifications for an ideal candidate, they often will have the required qualifications and the preferred qualifications. So lots of different information there that can that can be helpful. Again, this is helpful to you as you're looking to see if this is a good fit. One of the people at the very beginning talked about like making a career shift and you're trying to figure out, do I meet these qualifications? So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but like as you're reading the position description, it can help you decide even, is this a good fit? Should I even be applying for this position? Is this one that really is something that I'm qualified for and I have a good chance of getting? Now, that being said, you do not need to have every qualification they're looking for. No one does. But you want to see if you're kind of a match to a number of the things they're looking for. And I was going to say, if you have questions as we're going along, we're a small group, feel free to just type them into the chat or do the raise your hand feature, and we can certainly address questions as we go. We'll have time for questions at the end too, but I want to address them as we're going along. The other things that you'll find in the position description, the application materials required, like what do you need to submit? A resume, a cover letter, writing sample, letters of recommendation. What are the directions and the details? How do you submit those? What's the deadline? And not all of them are going to have that. Sometimes they're accepting them on a rolling basis, so there is no real deadline. But as you get more experienced reading position descriptions, you can find as much detail as you can out of that position description. They may give you a contact person if you have any questions, that you can contact if you have questions. You always want to be sure you're asking informed questions when you do that. If you are following up, you don't want to ask questions that are already in the position posting or that you could find out easily on the organization's website. You want to be asking questions that you can't find the answer to. And then a DEIB statement. Many times the position postings might include their company's policy or statement on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So that's also something that you can look for in a position description. So questions about any of these things that, and I'm going to flip back to the last slide just for a second, any of these things that you might find in a position description. Okay. So let's talk about what this position description is describing. It's really describing a unicorn. I don't know if you use that word a lot, but the dictionary describes it as something that's unusual, rare, or unique. They're really identifying their dream person. We want someone who can do this, this, and this. It's bringing these skills. And there really aren't people out there that meet every single qualification. They're looking for a unicorn, and they're kind of putting their dream. If we had the best of the best, this is what we'd want, the person to have everything like that. Their ideal kind of candidate. But don't worry, because no one really is that unicorn. But the thing is, you are all unique and your own unicorn. So what you want to do is take that position description and figure out what things from there really are a match for you. What are the qualifications that you have that meet what they're looking for? Look in the minimum qualifications, look in the preferred qualifications, figure out how you match up with those as best as you can. And then you're going to present yourself as the unique person who has this set of qualifications that they're looking for, and what makes you unique and special, and why you're the person that they should hire. So does that make sense? Questions about that? All right. So what are some common mistakes that people make as they are putting together their application materials? One of the most common is to submit a resume or cover letter that doesn't really align with the position description. You want to be sure that you're tailoring your application materials to the position you're applying for. Sometimes that means tweaking your resume too. You don't always need to tweak your resume, but every cover letter really should be written to align to that particular position that you're applying for. You don't have to start from scratch every time. You can use ones you've used before and tweak them, and we're going to talk about how to do that. But you really want to be sure that you're not sending out that generic cover letter, that generic resume that's going to not really line up with what they're looking for. You want to think about it from the perspective of the employer. They've got this job they want to fill. They have this unicorn idea in their head of what they want. And you want to imagine they're reading your resume and your cover letter, and are they going to go, oh yes, they have this, this, and this. We're looking for that. Oh yeah, they also have this experience. That would be a nice addition. So you want to be sure that you're going to stand out in their eyes in terms of matching up what they're looking for. A second big mistake is forgetting to save the position description for future reference. Do not just save the link to the posting on the website. It probably will be taken down as soon as the application deadline passes. And then if you get offered an interview, you don't have the position description to prepare for your interview. So you want to be sure that you know, if it's a PDF form that you can download and save, or copy and paste that text right out of the website and save it into a document so that you have that information for future reference, because you might need it.
We have a question in the chat, Joan.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Sharika asked, what happens if I apply for multiple positions? Should I decide only one position in the same company or organization?
So that's a great question. If there's an organization that is posting multiple positions that you're interested in, you certainly can apply to multiple positions in the same organization at the same time. You do want to be careful and like kind of pay attention to how you're submitting it. Some organizations will have you, they funnel everything through a centralized HR office or internship coordinator's office. Some places will have application materials going directly to the departments. So you do want to be careful if you're applying to multiple positions that you are tailoring those materials, because in case the same person is reading that, you want to show that you have done your research and you've tailored each of those letters to the particular positions that you're applying for. And I will just say, occasionally with internships, particularly in large organizations with a lot of internships, like a big internship program, you may, part of their process may be that you can apply to multiple internships. And then if that's the case, their directions on their website should be really clear about how you can apply. And maybe you list the 3 positions you're applying to as part of the application, the online application, or they have you put that in your cover letter. So you can, kind of read that if that's that type of information is on the website. And then the last mistake that people can make is really trying to address every single aspect of what the employer is looking for. So as I mentioned, very few people have everything they're looking for. And so if you try to do everything, it's going to water it down, and you're not going to really highlight and go into more detail about the things that are your best strengths. So you really want to look at that position description, think about which are your strengths, and then focus in on those things. Sometimes less is more, and with cover letters and application materials, that really is the case. So questions about any of that? All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of take a look and give you some examples for resumes, cover letters, and interview prep, how you can use that position description to really tailor those documents. And like I said, with the resume, you're not necessarily going to, you don't have to tailor your resume to every single position, but you do want to be sure that it's at least tailored to the, the type of position you're applying to. So some examples that I give is like, you may have multiple versions of your resume. Sometimes you're applying to nonprofit organizations, you may have your resume organized slightly different than if you're applying to legislative internships or campaigns or a part-time job at the mall, or to graduate school or to law school. So there's a lot of different things that you might be, have different versions of your resume that are focusing on different things. If you're applying to some positions that are really focused on research, you may add more research things to your resume. So, so with resumes, here's some examples of things that you can look at. So like I said, you may not change every single time you apply, you change your resume for every single position, but you at least want one focused on that particular field. And sometimes you may tweak it, a couple of lines on your resume just because of a particular skill that they're looking for. So some examples. So in the first example, if the employer is looking for a candidate with demonstrated data analysis skills, you might highlight the work that you've done in data analysis in an internship or in a class. Maybe describe the times you've used Excel or a similar program. So you want to be sure as you're looking at that, they're looking for data analysis. Now you look at your resume and see, where do I have data analysis in there? Is it there? Great. Is it highlighted? If this is one of the most important skills, do I need to figure out how to move that up my resume a little bit? if it's not there at all, do I have some experience with data analysis, or do I have something that's similar, that's kind of a transferable skill that I could add in there and highlight? So you want to be sure that those key skills that you have, obviously you don't lie and you don't make things up for your resume, but if it's something that is a skill that you have, used or done in classes and internships and jobs, and volunteer work, that is highlighted on your resume. So the second example, employers looking for a candidate with demonstrated interest in public health. So in this case, maybe you're a public health concentration, or you've taken some specific courses focused on public health. So you might want to add those. You may be sure your concentration is listed, or if you've taken some courses, you may want to adjust the relevant courses list that you've got on your resume, or add a relevant courses list that would highlight some of the courses. If you don't have specific experience in public health, then that would be a way of showing that you've got some knowledge base there. So does that make sense? Questions about that? All right, so how do you do that on your resume? So I kind of started talking about this a little bit before. You can add or delete sections or specific line items as appropriate to get in the more important things. You can rearrange the order of your sections. And again, within, kind of the way we organize a resume, you want the traditional reverse chronological, but maybe you move a section up higher. Like maybe research is really important, so you move the research section up higher on your resume. Or maybe for this particular position, it's more focused on the, your customer service skills. So you move that, whatever it is that you want to call attention to, you want those sections to be kind of higher up. So that's another way you can tweak your resume. You want to be sure those key skills are listed on the left column. So remember, people read a resume by skimming down that left column. So that first word on each bullet line is so important. So you want that to represent those skills. So again, as you're looking at the position description, these are the key skills they're looking for. These are the key duties and tasks. Do you have at least some of those, the ones that you actually have experience with, listed on the left column? You may have some place where a bullet point, you just need to flip. Maybe you've got a couple of skills highlighted in a bullet point. You need to flip it because the one that's more important to them is buried further down to the right, and you want that to be the first one listed on that line. So as they skim down, you want them to see. There's also different words to use to describe things, and you may tweak some of the words that more closely align with the way they're describing the skills that they're looking for. Does that make sense? And you might also tweak the relevant details in your bullet description. So, as you're putting those, that who, what, when, where, why, to kind of describe those bullet things a little bit more in detail, you may tweak those for particular positions to kind of give an example or phrase it in a way that kind of better aligns with what they're looking for. Make sense? Questions? Okay. So let's talk about cover letters. So similarly, we're going to take a look at that position description, and we're going to look to see what skills they're looking for, and how do you put that into your cover letter. So an example here, the employer is looking for a candidate with research experience. So you might highlight some research done as part of a summer internship, or maybe one of your courseworks. You could provide a concise example of what was involved. You want to describe the work that you did, the result of the work, and how it relates back to the position you're applying for, to that job task that was on the position description. And we talk about the start technique a lot when we're talking about cover letters. That last T, that transferable back to the position, you want to tie your example of that experience and that skill back to one of the job tasks on that position description. That's where that job description helps you with that last T in the start technique. Another example, if the employer is looking for a candidate with demonstrated experience being flexible with a fast-paced schedule. So you might highlight your experience working in a restaurant, and explain how you managed your time and priorities while meeting the needs of the guest. So again, it doesn't always have to be completely relevant experience. And I know the person who was asking the questions in the beginning about, like, I don't have the right experience they're looking for. Sometimes you may have experience that's similar in a slightly different setting, that you can highlight that transferable skill there as well. So questions about those? And then in your cover letter, you really want to write, you've got your intro stuff and you've got your wrap up at the end, but those body paragraphs in the middle, you really want to highlight those key skills that they're looking for that are your strengths. So again, you're not going to put everything in there, but when you read that position description and see the skills they're looking for, think about which 2 or 3 of the skills that are in the position description are your biggest strengths. And that's how you're going to stand out as your own unicorn to them. And you're going to then use that START technique that we talked about: situation, task, action, result, and takeaway. If you don't know what that means, I'll tell you at the end how you can learn more about that. But you're going to use that START technique to write a paragraph describing a time that you actually utilize that skill. So if it was research and you're going to describe how you, what was the setting in my blank blank class, I researched blank blank blank, this is how I did it. You describe the steps, and I analyzed this, and I did this, and I gathered information, and I summarized it into a paper. You're going to describe those steps. What was the result? Presented it to the class, and the takeaway: I could utilize these research skills to do legislative research for your office. Again, I've tied back to that position description and found something in the duties there that they're looking for. And now I can show you an example of a time I did that, and then explain and connect the dots back to how then I could use this skill for this position. Does that make sense? Questions? So as you're working on your cover letter, again, you can use former cover letters as kind of a base and a model to get you started. In some cases, you're going to need to write a whole new start paragraph because the position it's focused on different skills, and you need to highlight an experience or a skill that you've not done in a previous cover letter. In some cases, you can take some start paragraphs from previous letters, cover letters, and just tweak them a little bit to focus more on the details as it relates to the position, this particular position. Does that make sense? Questions? All right, I feel like I'm doing all the talking now. We're going to get a chance in a few minutes for you guys to interact again. So now let's talk about interview prep. So you can also use that position description to help you prepare for the interview. So if you get an interview offer, that's why you need to have saved that position description, because now when you're getting ready to prepare for your interview, you're going to need that information as well. So you want to, again, a couple of examples. So if the employer is looking for someone who can work independently in a team, you can go back to that position description and look at what they're looking for, and then think, well, what would be some questions they might ask me to get at that skill? So if they were looking for someone who can work independently on a team, they might ask questions like, tell me about a time you worked on a team. Tell me about a time you worked independently. What strategies did you use to manage your time and competing priorities? So think about the types of questions they might ask to get at the different skills that they're looking for and the different duties that are part of that position. Another example, if they're looking for a candidate with strong oral, presentation, and written communication skills, some potential questions they might ask: tell me about a time you facilitated a presentation. What feedback did you receive about your presentation? What experience have you had presenting? So this will help you think about potential questions so that you can then prepare answers for them, and you're going to be much more prepared for your interview. Make sense? Questions? The other thing that you need to do as you're preparing for an interview is you need to come up with some questions to ask them. And the position description can also help you there. So you can read that position description, and there might be things you are unclear about. There's things you have questions about that you don't understand exactly about the position. So think about what information is missing from the position description that you have questions about. What is it that you really want to know about the position or the organization that's either not evident in the position description posting, or you can't find on their website or conversations with other people? You don't want to be asking questions that you could just find if you Googled the organization and looked at the first page of their website. But you want to use that position description and your research to help you start your research so that you can prepare questions to ask them as well. And I thought this was a great mantra: informed questions lead to informed answers. So the better questions you ask, one, it makes you look better, but you're also going to get better answers that'll help you decide if this really is a good fit, if they offer you a position. So any questions about those things? So now we're going to give you a chance to kind of do a little interactive work here. So what we're going to do is, I have a few different position descriptions, and I'm going to pull them up on the screen one at a time. And I want you to look in that position description and find the organization's mission and values, and then match that to your career passion and values. So that's where you're going to look at what they are saying about their organization's mission and what they do and what's important to them, and think about if that's a match to you, and how could you describe that? Like, what is it about your career goals and career interests and your passion that matches up with the organization's mission? Does that make sense? And then I want you to read the roles and responsibilities and job tasks and think about similar experiences that you've had where you have done similar types of work. And again, it might not be exactly the same, and that's okay. But again, think about those transferable skills, times when you've done things that could be somewhat relevant. And then I want you to look at the required skills and the preferred skills. Sometimes they only have one section, but often they'll have required and then preferred skills or qualifications. And think about the skills from that list, or those two lists, that are your strengths. And what of those skills make you unique? Like, maybe one of the preferred things is they're looking for, knowledge of a language. It's not necessary, but maybe you speak another language that would be relevant and helpful to them. Maybe it's not even on their skills list, but there's a reference, something about, serving a diverse community of, constituents, and you could highlight, if you're fluent in another language that, and maybe it's not relevant, but like do some research on that. If it's like a legislative district, and see what are common, languages or immigrant countries that people immigrate for that live in that area. And if that's a match for you, then that's something that you would want to highlight. So does that make sense? So things you can get right from the position description, and sometimes you need to do a little extra research. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to put up a position description, and I want you to just take a look at it. And I'm just going to have you, again, type in the chat, unmute yourself, raise your hand. And I just want you to share, and you don't have to answer all of these things, but one of the things, like, so thinking about all of these different kind of, looking in the position description, matching it to something for you. And as you look at that, see if there's something that matches for you, and then just tell us what that is. And we don't need a whole story, but just kind of a quick little phrase to kind of reference it. So here's the first one. And actually the positions I'm going to show you are actually all current jobs or internships that have been shared with our office and are in our Rock Your Career newsletter, that they're positions right now that they're looking for. So the food pantries of the Capital District is looking for an intern. So, so take a look at that. And then, like I said, just type in the chat, or unmute yourself, or raise your hand and tell us what's something in there that you spot that you're like, oh, I could talk about that, or that fits with me, or I have that skill, or this would be an example of a way I could highlight that on my resume or in my cover letter. I'll give you a second to read before we start sharing. Maybe Taylor or Emily, I can have one of you. Would one of you like to just jump in and share something quick as everybody else is kind of reading and thinking?
I was trying to retype all of the questions into the chat. We have the prompt there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can jump in here.
Go ahead, Taylor. Yeah.
I'm looking specifically at the qualifications section, and that part is the first bullet point talks about like strong data entry skills. And like in my past experience, like on campaigns, I could connect it to that, having used like different like vote builder platforms and kept data on volunteers who were helping and how many postcards have been sent out, that sort of thing could easily become one of your start paragraphs in a cover letter.
Yeah, that's a great example, because it's a completely different type of organization, but the skill is data entry, and that is, you can transfer that to a different type of organization, a different kind of data you'd be entering, but to be able to share that example, that's a perfect example. Who else has some thoughts?
When it says must be detailed oriented with positive attitude, yeah, I could see how that would relate to me. I mean, everything, like even from writing essays or research papers and stuff like that, you have to pay attention to like your grammar and stuff like that. So I feel like that would like count as like being detailed oriented or something. And having a positive attitude would just be coming from like me working with like customer service for like summer jobs and stuff like that. So like even when you're having a bad day, you still have to have a good attitude. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, Emma, that's perfect. And I like how you identified those were skills that were strengths for you and then thought of a specific example of a time you did it. So the detail oriented, you were talking, I think a class project or something like that you were saying, and the positive attitude in a customer service job. So that's a perfect way to do that, to then turn that into a start paragraph or a bullet point on your resume, so that you're highlighting a specific example of a time that you demonstrated that skill. So that's perfect.
We have someone in the chat, Sarah says, the key responsibility, assessing current resources and determining gaps in service.
Mm-hmm.
And then she put it towards her experience and said, in my professional life, I managed a restaurant and was responsible for handling ordering of food and alcohol stock. I had assessed the total amount of product we had in order to determine how much was needed to be ordered. Additionally, I wrote staff schedules and needed to plan several months ahead for various staff vacations, holidays, and busy events.
Excellent. That's great. So again, it's a transferable one. It's not the same type of organization, but it definitely gets at the responsibility, the skills they're looking at, and giving a specific example of a time you did that really makes a much stronger statement than just saying, I can do that or I'm good at that. So great.
We have
Any
a couple
others?
more.
Okay, go ahead.
Therese said, I agree. I've led various groups in high school in regards to clubs and volunteer services and working as a leader of others. I've gained experience with having a constant positive attitude and needing to be detail oriented in order to be successful. And Ryan added, looking at reaching out to guests shows the need for someone with customer service experience. I've had plenty of jobs that work with direct interactions with guests and how they interact with myself and other coworkers.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, great. Did anyone find any connection to the mission, kind of the description of the organization and their mission or values that you could connect to?
Yeah, the mission, I could relate to that because in undergrad, we had pantries for students as well to help. It was a campaign we did on campus, and I volunteered a lot to like put food out and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. So obviously that's something, you know, that you're passionate about if you were volunteering to help with that. So I think that's a really good, whenever you can give an example of a time that you did some work that, you know, or had an experience or attended an event or learned something or took a class about something that really relates directly to what their mission is, that's a perfect thing to highlight. And when you're highlighting that, the best place to highlight that usually is, it could be two places in the cover. I mean, you could certainly be sure that you know, if you did some volunteer work related to food insecurity, you'd want to be sure that's listed on your resume someplace. And you may, if the skills that you did during that line up, you could even do a full paragraph, a start paragraph on your cover letter. But the other thing that you can do is in that first paragraph of the cover letter, you often want to have a sentence or two about how you connect with the mission. And you could talk about, you know, your interest in, you know, working to, you know, combat food insecurity on campus and getting involved with having a food drive. So that would be another great way that you could incorporate that into your application materials. And then certainly having a couple of answers ready for questions in an interview related to that as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes it's kind of like you have all these things, but just starting. Like I always wonder, like, how would I start a cover letter? Like, do I just go in straight for like my experiences, or do I don't know how to just start it? You know what I mean?
I do. That's an excellent question. And we don't really have time to go into the details about that today, but I will point you to a couple of resources. We have a workshop that's on our YouTube channel that's all about writing a cover letter. That's going to give you kind of the basics of how to start it, how to write those start paragraphs, and how to end your cover letter. And then we also have handbooks. There's an undergraduate career or an undergraduate cover letter handbook that you can access, or at the graduate level, we have the same information in the program, the MPA, the MIA, and the political science career handbooks. So that information, and look, Emily has just popped up the YouTube channel for you to get to the recorded workshop. And those handbooks are available on our website, and also on the in the Rock Your Careers newsletter that we send every week. And if anyone is not a Rockefeller major, because this program was open to students in all majors, the main career office in the science library also has all of these resources, both on their website and physically in the office as well. So if you're a different major, you can find these same types of resources there. So, and Emily's popping them into the chat for you as well. So great question. All right, let's go on to another one. I've got another position description here. This is a full-time position as a budget analyst, looking for someone with a master's degree or near completion. So for some of you who might be undergrads, you might not have a lot of these skills, but still, look, there might be one or two that you have something that you probably wouldn't be applying for this position because you're not super qualified for it. But there might still be some things you find in there that you could connect to if you were applying to a similar position that didn't require a master's degree. For those of you who are graduate students, you may find that you can match up to some more of the qualifications they're looking for. So go ahead and take a look at this one, and then, like I said, type into the chat or unmute yourself and tell us what would be an example or two that you would pull out of there that you could use for your application materials. All right, thanks. Thanks, Reese. Glad you could join us. And we'll send a follow-up with the link to the recording too, so you can watch the end of it as well. All right. Take a minute and read, and if anyone has one they want to share, let me know. All right, go ahead, Rishi.
So I can focus on the preferred qualifications. They say that they're looking for somebody with proficiency in Excel. I could say that I've worked in Excel for about 5 to 6 years, and throughout my work experience, I have a variety of work experiences in being able to, for example, compute mathematical calculations on raw data sets, and being able to do financial computations, as well as, doing sort of more advanced, high level analytics within Excel to be able to provide business intelligence to the budget committee.
Yeah. So, and I think that's a perfect example of, you're identifying, it might not be exactly what they're looking for, but you've got this kind of skill that's a little adjacent, and how you can then frame that in a way that focuses on the skill that's going to be transferable and helpful to them. So I think that was a great example. Excellent. Anyone else? Go ahead. Yasser, I probably pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
You got it right. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So I was considering the second bullet point on the required qualifications. And since I have some training that I gained at Albany in Stata, which is an statistic dedicated software, I think I would stress that on my application.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. There's a lot of things they're looking for here. And if you find the ones that are your strengths and you focus in on that, then you're going to come across as, oh, look, you've got this, this, and this. They know that they're never going to find someone that's got everything. But if you really highlight the things that are your strengths, that will make you stand out. Excellent. Anybody else want to share something from this one?
I have a question.
Yes.
So like sometimes you want to apply for a job or like an internship that you're interested in, but you don't have like any related experiences. Like for example, I'll use myself as an example. Like I have no experience in like the international world. I didn't take any classes as an undergrad. This is my first time in that field. So I feel like I don't have any experiences in that. So for example, if I'm applying to like internship related directly to that, I feel like I'm not qualified to apply. So like my question is like, how do you apply for a job that you know you're not qualified, but you want to get your foot in the door for? That's my question.
That's a great question, Emma. And I'll give you kind of a multifaceted answer. So I think the first thing is, thinking about and maybe even having a conversation, talk to a career counselor, talk to your academic advisor, talk to somebody else in the field, and talk about what skills you have and what, what they're looking for, and see if you do have some transferable skills that you could highlight. So sometimes you might be able to highlight some transferable skills that would help you, like we've been talking all along. In some cases, that you may make the determination that you're just not qualified for this position at this point in time. But if this is something you're looking for, then you want to think about where are some places you could get some experiences that, wouldn't quite be the level of this position, but might be some ways to get some experiences that would help you fill more of those qualifications, in 6 months or a year from now, if you were applying to this type of a position. And that might be, depending upon where you're at as an undergrad or a grad, it might be getting involved in something on campus. It might be doing some volunteer work. It might be looking for an internship. I know sometimes students, when they graduate, if you haven't had a chance to have as many internships or do an internship before you graduated, there are certainly some internships that are open to people even after you've graduated. So you can still get those kinds of experiences if you missed out. And I know right now everybody has kind of missed out on some experiences, particularly international experiences with COVID, no international travel for a long time. So you may not have the capability to do study abroad at this point if you're interested in international, but maybe there's you couldn't go a whole semester, but maybe there's a January program or a spring break program that you could do that would get you a little more experience there. So try to think creatively, and you can talk with, counselors and advisors and people like that who can help you kind of brainstorm ways that you can get more experiences to be able to apply for the types of positions you're looking for, even if you really determine that you don't have the qualifications at this point in time. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
All right, excellent. So any other comments about this one? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one. Okay, so I've got one more. This is a new internship, literally got this one yesterday. Assembly member Patricia Fahey, who is the local assembly member for Albany, and like Del Mar, a couple of areas right around, but it's basically the Albany County, is looking for a legislative intern in their office. So this is that position. This is not as thorough a one. And I will tell you, legislative internship position descriptions tend to be a little bit sparse on the details. So you sometimes have to kind of read between the lines a little bit, but take a look at this one and see if you can match up some things to what they're looking for to things that you would have to offer. All right, and Taylor or Emily, if either of you have a thought you want to get us started on this one, you can go ahead too.
I can do that, and then we also have someone in the chat, but so I'll uplift Jack's first, and then I'll put mine in. But Jack said, my experience with the Lieutenant Governor's office has developed my constituents relation skill. My experience in scheduling and organizing would also be useful in this position.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's great, Jack. Definitely some good examples there. And again, it's then taking that experience and utilizing that START technique to write a whole paragraph where you're going to describe step by step how you did that, and how that would connect to the duties that they're outlining here. So great.
And then I can jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
But the first one with assisting with constituent outreach and communications, events and services. In my last position at my previous nonprofit, I did a lot of community organizing and educating and outreach in order to provide services. And so I think I could find some stuff there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and I think with that, and when you've got one of the other things, and I think this is a good example, Emily, because you've got a lot of experience that overlaps, and sometimes it can be a tendency to just like put it all in the cover letter, and that's too much information. It'd be better to kind of look at what would be some unique experiences to you or something the most relevant kind of experience, and then highlight a specific example or two that really showcases how you did it, because then you can go into more detail about how you did it and not just kind of do a little summary of everything, because that's the thing. That's what your resume kind of is a little summary of everything you did. That's relevant. In the cover letter, you want to take a few of those things that are the most important to them, and the best match for you, and go into more detail.
Right. So then I would probably focus on like one specific time I did that with a large group of people, like a talent show I ran with New York City students.
Excellent. Yes, that'd be perfect. Anybody else have something that pops out at them here that they'd like to share?
If no one else does, I think I have something that
Okay.
would be worth adding. So in the skills section, it talks about they're preferring legislative experience. I think there's two ways you could go with that. If you have background like I do, having interned in a US Senator's office, I think that's something great to explain there. But if you don't, I've also taken a course on like New York State government and politics, and that might show that even if you don't have a direct experience in the field, it's still something that's going to be relatable to the position.
Yes, that's a great example. And I think sometimes we forget, especially when you're looking towards internships before you even graduated, whether you're undergrad or grad, you're learning things in your classes that you haven't had a chance to do in a job yet or an internship. And so when people are looking to hire interns, they want a certain skill set, but they don't necessarily need you to have everything. They're not looking for someone with a degree. They're, in this case, it's an unpaid internship. So they're looking for someone who's looking to get some more experience. So finding those examples from classes, from volunteer work, from campus leadership positions, from those, jobs at the mall, that you can highlight those transferable skills, or knowledge base in the case of a class, or maybe it was a paper you worked on or something like that, that really can show the, not only your interest in the position, but also some skills that are relevant. And they're like, okay, well, they're starting here and I can help them, that's enough for us to then be able to teach them the specifics about whatever that they're going to be working on for you to be really valuable to the office. So, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. I'm sorry, you might have clarified this already. I just jumped minutes ago.
That's okay.
Are these like live opportunities, current position that are offered? All these example of work positions that are actually real opportunities that we can send. Okay.
Yes.
I'm guessing that you're probably going to be sending out a link to these positions, or is there any other way that we can access those?
Yes, you can. So, yes, sir. Let me ask you, what's your major? What program are you in?
MPA, Public Administration.
Okay, so they were in the Rock Your Careers e-newsletters that we sent yesterday.
Perfect. Thank you. I got that.
Yeah. So if you're a Rockefeller College student, you have access to these in the newsletters. If you're not, some of them probably are listed on Handshake. Many people cross-list them. If they aren't, you can reach out to the Rockefeller.careers email, which we'll give you at the end, and we can forward them on to you as well if you can't find them in the newsletters or you don't get the newsletters because you're a different major. But I think in most of these cases, they are looking for interns from any background. It's not necessarily Rockefeller, but these are all organizations that we have connections with, so they often share the postings with us. So, but yes, I will reiterate, these are all open positions right now. So if any of them look interesting to you, feel free to reach out. I think that this one in Patricia Fahey's office is probably geared more towards an undergrad. I'm guessing the budget analysis one obviously was they want a master's degree or someone who's finishing their master's soon. The first position of the food pantries, they are willing to work with graduate or undergraduate, and if it's a graduate student, they probably would provide some additional job responsibilities that would be at a higher level if they had a graduate intern as well. So, all right, any last questions about these? If not, we're getting near the end. So let's do a little wrap up with some key takeaways. So you got a chance to kind of experiment a little bit, but really our key takeaways are that position descriptions are a very important tool to help you land that job interview. They really are the best information you have about that position and that organization. You want to be sure you're customizing your materials to the key skills and knowledge and competencies and abilities that you have for the position. So you're going to take what they're looking for and what you have and match up the ones that are the best fit. And that's what you talk about in your application materials. They can be used to help you brainstorm potential interview questions if you get to the interview position. And remember that unicorns may not exist, but you can really highlight your potential and demonstrate how you could be just the right person they're looking for. So what remaining questions do you have? I think we got to most of the questions that people asked at the beginning. There was a question about work eligibility for international students. I will suggest that you reach out to the ISSS office on campus. They really are the experts that can help you in terms of appropriate paperwork, whether it's for internships or jobs as you're getting ready to graduate. They can be the most helpful people in terms of that kind of paperwork and figuring out if you're eligible for positions and things like that. But were there any other questions that either people had at the beginning that I didn't cover or that have come up during the presentation that you want to be sure that we answer?
I'll ask one quick question, and I mentioned this at the beginning in terms of the work experience.
Yes.
So I'm interested. So I probably mentioned this is that I'm in the middle of a career transition, and the challenge is that I don't really have work experience in the field that I'm trying to transition into.
Right. So I think the key there is really two things: figuring out where you've got transferable skills that would be valuable to the employer, and then figuring out ways that you can get some experience. And it might not be a full-time job. It might be some volunteer work. It might be an internship. It might be some things like that. And I think in particular, you said EHC is kind of the area you're trying to transition into, right? I think you said EHC. If you did, I would reach out to Erin Couture, who is the experiential career person for the College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity. And she would be a good resource for that, specifically in terms of getting some experiences that might be more directly related to the types of positions that you'd be looking for. All right, other questions? All right, I do want to just highlight some resources. I mentioned some of these already during the presentation, but the YouTube channel, and you don't have to be a Rockefeller student to access this YouTube channel. It's on YouTube, anyone can access it. And a lot of the skills that we talk about there are not specific. Sometimes they're kind of focused on public affairs type positions, but a lot of it's very general to students in any major. So that's our YouTube channel. For students who are Rockefeller students, the career website is very helpful, the handbooks. And again, if you're not Rockefeller, the main career office and their website has similar resources office as well. And in some cases, other career offices in other academic departments, EHC, business definitely have their own career staff. Engineering, I believe, does. Public health does. So you can reach out to like my counterpart in those other departments for kind of specialized materials that are specific to your field. Handshake is a great resource. All students, grad, undergrad, and even alums have access to that. That you can, get access to, schedule career appointments. You can find jobs, internships to apply for, things like that. Big Interview is a platform on campus where you can log in with your single sign-on and your email, just like all the other platforms, and you can do practice interviews. There's little videos on there with tips on doing interviews, and there's also an opportunity that you can go and do practice interviews, and you record yourself and watch yourself, and you can watch it back later, and it can be a really great resource as you're preparing for interviews. UCAN is the UAlbany Career Advisory Network. If you want to connect with alumni, if you're looking to relocate to a new area after you graduate, or you're looking at particular field or particular organizations or employers, you can search on there to find alumni from UAlbany who have volunteered to connect with current students and recent alums, and contact them through the platform and schedule a time to do a business chat. It's not like a job interview, but you would do a business chat and talk with them. They call them informational interviews. And you would just ask them about their career. You can ask them about the organization. You can ask them about the field, what advice they have to you as you're, looking for internships or looking for jobs. That can be a great resource to you as well. And then for those who are, one or two of you mentioned international, that are interested in international, Going Global is a new platform that the university has subscribed to that has all kinds of career guides, internship and job postings and things like that are international. So if that's something that interests you, that's a great platform. And both Taylor and Emily have been getting very versed on these, that platform, actually on all of them, but particularly Going Global because it's a new one. So if you're looking at that, they can point you in the right direction to some, recorded trainings, as well as even do stop in their office hours, and you can talk with them and they can help you get started with that platform. And then you can contact us. So I mentioned at the beginning, that Emily and Taylor are available. I also do appointments. I will tell you that because I'm doing double duty with my job right now, my appointment schedule is a little more booked. So you'll get in with Emily or Taylor a lot faster than me, but you can stop in to our office hours. You can schedule an appointment. If you're not a Rockefeller student, if you're other major, again, if you've got a career person in your department, you can connect with them, or the main career office in Science Library is available to students in any major for appointments. We have drop-in office hours, as we said. We send a weekly Rock Your Career email that has information about events and stuff like that. And many of them are posted on Handshake that all students can access. So we're here to help you, and we encourage you to reach out. And we wish you good luck. So thanks for joining us.